typed in lizard people, had me down this path of mole people. And I was like, what the heck is mole people? And I was thinking like, well, they don't have really any stress because they've just come to accept it.
Yeah, we're glorifying it a bit. I mean, it just sounds awful.
At the end of the day, these people are all drug addicts.
What's crazy is, so then, that's actually a good question. I don't know how Snapchat works, but you buy drugs off of Snapchat. Do they ship them to you?
I mean, I'm sure the rules are pretty squirrely, but I mean, I know how it happens, actually.
Let's hear it. This is interesting.
And I need you to say some more wild shit, because I'm trying to find clips to put in the beginning, and like you don't say as many wild things as Al and I. Because I'm trying to make it even, like where all three of us at least get a say within that first few minutes.
Say wilder shit.
Say more crazy shit so I can clip it.
All right, so topic today that we wanted to discuss was mole people. Now, you could kind of introduce this. It was a pretty interesting topic.
Quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, Fully Loaded Tobacco-Free Chew. Check out the description of this video or the show notes to get 20% off your next order.
Yeah, I forget how I headed down that rabbit hole, but I think my original search was something came up that triggered, like, there used to be, like, lizard people was a conversation back in the day. Like, are there really lizard people that lived, like, in L.A.? And when I typed in lizard people, it had me down this path of mole people. And I was like, what the heck is mole people? And basically, there's a lot of flash floods in Las Vegas. So there's these tunnels that have been built underneath the Strip. And obviously, there's a lot of homeless people in Las Vegas. But there's like 400 or 500 people at any given time that basically live. They've created their like own homes and their own communities, living in the tunnels underneath Las Vegas. So it's like a step back in time, and then there's been several folks that have gone down there and conducted interviews with these people. I think one guy has his own kind of nonprofit. It's Shine a Light, trying to help these people because most of them are down there because they had a tough time.
Shine a Light's a good name for mole people.
Yeah, so he has in-depth conversations with these people, and like what's crazy is like you just kind of walk past homeless people a lot of times and you don't think much of it. Just like, man, they're probably a drug addict. A lot of times that's usually something that has happened over the course of their life, the rough run that they've been on, and then that kind of restricts them from being able to rejoin society, getting a job and whatnot. But yeah, it was pretty interesting, and a lot of these folks have been down there for decades, like on and off. So
when I read it, that was the crazy. So there's like 22 miles of these tunnels
under Vegas,
and it shows you like human ingenuity. Even these people that are incredibly down on their luck, like they build rooms and like have beds and all kinds of stuff down in these tunnels. And then the crazy thing to me is that, I mean, that's the thing. The purpose of these things is for flash floods. So there's almost like a guarantee that they're just going to get washed out at some point.
Yeah, and they've come to kind of accept it. And like I always like to relate, like, because we all came from hunters and gatherers back in the day, and that's kind of what they're taking a step back, and they're just gatherers, but they have more resources because they've got a bunch of casinos above them. They're throwing out mattresses or throwing out blankets. I mean, heck, half the time they'll create little rooms. Like the one guy had like what the felt is for like a roulette table. That was like his wall. Like he just hung a string and put it together. But it's like that's where they're kind of taking a step back, and like. And I was thinking, like, man, well, they don't have really any stress because they've just come to accept it.
Except for the flood.
Well, yeah. But then I was like, well, it's kind of like people that are really well off and decide to build a house like in Florida or anywhere where there's like hurricanes. It's like any given time, you can expect that you could just fucking lose everything.
Yeah.
And then you got to rebuild. And yeah, I got insurance that'll cover that. But at the same time, you got stuff that you care about, like whatever, mementos.
Yeah, Momoto.
But they'll just be like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I can get my stuff and whatever. I'll start over again. I mean, it's not like they have that much, but
right.
I mean,
they probably have some memento that they do like. But yeah, the question is then, yeah, I found it really interesting because of the fact that these people they had enough ingenuity to actually set up these full-blown, like, almost communities. But then I kept having questions about, like, there's just got to be rampant crime in these tunnels, right? I mean, it just has to be constant.
Did you guys watch? I sent you guys the one video, but it was almost like they have this community where they like protect each other too, where most of them kind of know each other, and that was wild too. They almost have like different communities where if you're into like heroin, you're like in one tunnel,
Like
versus
different
like
factions.
if you're a meth head, because there's different personality traits and like so it's like those crazy people, they kind of all hang out together. And
Well, the question I had was then like, so where do they go to the bathroom? 1, and 2, like when they have to leave, I mean they're just walking to other people's homes per se, right? I mean,
yeah.
So it's not like they all have an exit. So like if you're gonna leave, it's like, all right, I got to walk a mile through like a bunch of other people where they live. It's
Do you see how scattered those tunnels are though? Like
there's 22 miles of tunnels. So I mean, you figure if each person has, there's 500 people, and they're probably living in pairs.
But it
Maybe
sounds like
not.
they naturally have created a hierarchy of like, okay, while there probably is a lot of crime, it might be a little controlled crime, if you will, to an extent, right? Because there's got to be like a leader or people in the hierarchy that are like, hey, let's not do this. It's okay to do this. And I mean, I'm sure the rules are pretty squirrely, but I'm sure there's some sort of hierarchy.
Yeah.
Ingenuity. I mean, let's be honest. They're just putting a bunch of random shit together.
Yeah.
You have to.
They're
do
literally gatherers. They're just going, all right, like I found this crate, and I'll stack some crates together, and I'll put my whatever knickknacks here. They'll have like a little string and the little bit of clothing that they have. They kind of like hang it up. I mean,
Yeah, we're glorifying it a bit. I mean, it just sounds awful. I mean, the other side of the coin is that these people are living in squalor in a tunnel that can be flooded at any point in time, and they're probably living in their own excrement. So, like, I guess the tunnels are big enough. Like, do they have like a poop tunnel and a pee tunnel?
You'd think they'd go outside.
It doesn't rain that often in Las Vegas either, and it's really hot. Now, I guess below the surface, you're going to have a more geothermal regulated temperature, so you're going to get less. But like hot poop in an underground tunnel without an exit.
I think they do like they're almost like night crawlers, because they become like nocturnal almost, and like they can like see, because they like a couple of these that I watched, like they'll have the cameras, and like nowadays technology, like they'll be miles into these tunnels, and then they would do the whole like the cenotes that I went to down in Mexico, when you actually turned off your light, it's just the blackest of black. It's pitch black dark. I mean, unbelievable. But these people can like see in it. So it's like, what? You can get around here? The one guy's like on his bike, and like he like, couldn't see because there was actually light. But nevertheless, I think they kind of their bodies just get accustomed to at nighttime. All right, we're gonna go up to the casino now, and we can go to the restroom.
And they're probably so vitamin D deficient.
Oh yeah,
They're like they have to be ill. I mean, it's just not the way you're meant to live. Like we're not meant to be moles.
I know, exactly. Well, the one, it's crazy. Like he figured out like a way to basically make like $1,500 a month just by putting in hours, by walking around casinos, and like the average gambler will just like walk away like from a slot machine every once in a while and have some credits. So he became like a pro at just watching and monitoring, and then he'll go through and they might leave like 80 cents in there, and he'll just collect it. And he's like, I get about $50 a day just walking around, like taking people's credits. Well, yeah, they actually have like somewhat of a daily agenda that they go through in terms of gathering resources, getting a little bit, like he said, like,
wouldn't it just be easier to like get a job or something?
You would think, but then I always take it back. That's how we think in today's society. But it's like, man, they just have a different world, like where it's like, nah, I mean, you guys are the ones that are stressed out trying to pay your mortgage and pay your utilities and make your car payment. We got to figure it out down here. I wake up each day and
that's the other thing though. Like, I mean, the people who do this, who run Las Vegas, are they okay with this?
I mean, it's the same thing as California. Isn't California just rampant with homeless
Oh yeah,
people?
yeah. But that's my point. Like, like they're living in flood tunnels. You think that someone would be like, hey, like we got to get all the mole people out of the flood tunnels.
In every interview, all of them were like, yeah, like please don't bother us down here. If we're up on the streets, that's when we get bothered. Where it's like, hey, get out of here, because like casinos don't want you on their premises. It's not appealing to a consumer walking by. So they're all like, their kind of common theme was out of sight, out of mind. When we're down here, nobody bothers us. It's just kind of like work.
It is kind of crazy. Like if you go to Las Vegas and you're roaming around and you think like below me is a large group of individuals who live
frequent
in tunnels.
Like the one like kept coming up like because Caesar's Palace was like right there, and then there would be employees up there, and they'd be like, "Hey, we're just conducting an interview with the tunnel people."
So, do they get out via like manholes?
No, I
What do you
think
mean,
there's
get
just
out?
There's just a big opening that they just walk out.
Yeah, on the outskirts.
It's where the water would normally come in.
I'm saying like, all right, yeah. So there's an out on the horizontal plane. Is there an up?
Yeah, there were a few that actually went down, like what you would think of like taking off a sewer cap.
Yeah.
Like they actually went down that way because the one guy who frequents, like he says he goes down there like 3-4 times a month trying to help people, get them into rehab or get them into like a job placement program. Like he's trying to actually help them. But a lot of times it's just like, well, they're not going to come out. So he just goes down there to check on them for their well-being. Like he's passionate about helping these folks, which
That's
is cool.
great, yeah.
But like he knows all like, okay, I know that like this one guy's name was, it's weird. I know this, but this one guy's name was Iron. They go,
Iron?
He's like, yeah. He's like, hey, we're going to go down to this tunnel. Iron will be down there. He'll show us around. And like, it's a different world, that's for sure. But these people do have a sense of community, and they protect each other. Like the one guy was like, what happens if somebody like does come and try to steal? It's like, oh, we'll get them out of here quick. They all build their own weapons. And he's like, usually there's no violence down here, but if somebody comes down here that's like a newbie to our tunnel world, we'll get him out of here quick if he's caught stealing. So yeah, man, it was one hell of a rabbit hole.
I mean, at the end of the day, these people are all drug addicts.
Yeah.
lot of them.
They're not down there because
Yeah, life didn't go well.
right.
Thus far.
So there's a reason they're not going to get normal jobs. Like they just love shooting up heroin or whatever their drug of choice.
Unfortunately,
And,
that's probably the vast majority.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them had family. And if they were asked, like, well, what, you can't go to your family to kind of get you back up on your feet, and it's usually because of the drugs. Like,
They probably have tried that.
yeah, and it just didn't work out. But, you know, that's just like the Las Vegas example. But that's cities across this country and really across the world where these people, whatever, like so many of them had jobs. They would talk about, yeah, you know, before it was like I could swipe my credit card just like you. I had bank, I had a 401k, I had a job. But then whatever path they went down and they had a hard time. There were some war veterans down there that obviously were dealing with some trauma and couldn't get over it. But now they just feel at peace living in the tunnels without any stress.
I guess. Okay. You know, I mean, they're not hurting anyone, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like if they're not hurting anybody, who
They're hurting
cares?
themselves. I
Yeah.
mean, but it's not like, it's not like I go to Las Vegas and I'm bothered by them.
But I could see they're like, oh, my family kicked me out or whatever. They won't help me. It's like, well, how many times did you kind of fuck over your family?
A lot.
You know what I mean? Where they were trying to help you. I'm sure there's some shit families that are like,
I
just
think
get the hell out of
that's-
here. But
yeah, that's a misnomer.
at
of
some point, it's
homeless in
like you
general.
got to be like, all right, just go away.
Yeah.
Just we can't help you.
Well, you get I mean, I'm sure that's the thing. How many homeless people? Let's just say today I lost my job, and I had no money, nowhere to go. I got kicked out of my house. Like, I would figure out a place to stay.
Yeah, I mean, but you would first rely on your friends and family, which would
Correct.
take you in. But if you add that you're doing heroin in my
That's the problem.
in my spare bedroom, I'd be like,
Right.
Al, what
Yeah.
are you doing?
No,
Get the
hey,
hell out of here.
Yeah, you get one, but probably on 2 or 3, they're like, "Hey, man, you got to stop doing drugs here."
Yeah, we just can't have this happen.
Yeah.
Or if you're a known thief, like there was someone.
Well, that's the problem too.
there were
People
some-
that are into drugs, inevitably, the drugs are so powerful that
Yeah.
they end up making them into thieves and liars and things like that.
And
the
they're
addiction
too
does
questionable.
that to you. Like, you can't help it.
Like there was someone in my life where I thought about letting him come stay with me, but I was like, he was doing some drugs, and I was like, but I have another roommate in here. I'm like, I can't bring you into this environment and maybe have a chance that you might take something from my roommate or, you know, or I don't know, one of your friends if you have them come over. So I was like, I can't even take that risk.
Yeah.
It's not even worth it.
And the really the main drugs are the opioids. You know,
Yeah.
those are the ones that for whatever reason they're just so stinking addictive that people do get to a point where, and I used to see it when I was practicing, I'd have patients that would come in and just they'd have lies on lies on lies, and you knew they were lying. They knew they were lying, and it was like they just kept lying. It was like they just couldn't break it in that freaking heroin is so powerful. It has such a grip on people that it's like the only reason to exist, and it makes them almost not human.
Yeah,
it's it steals their humanity from them. It's so bad. It's such a blight.
Sean, when you sent us that mole video, I watched some of it, and then I went down a rabbit hole. I watched another one. I don't think it was this one that you sent us, but it was of this same idea, right? They went down to interview tunnel people or mole people, and this guy was interviewing a man with like a guitar, and then he was with a female, and she was actually kind of pretty. You could tell she was a junkie or whatever. I was like, man, in like normal life, you'd be pretty hot. But that's besides the point.
Normal life.
But she was saying how she was getting all these charges and getting arrested constantly for things she wasn't doing. And she was like, I found this purse and I was going to turn it in, and they arrested me because they thought I was stealing this purse, but I was just turning it in. And she was talking about all these bad breaks that was happening to her. And I was like, okay, how can all of this horrible shit just follow you around? There's something that you're doing, but it's like you're not willing to admit it, or you're too busy lying, or
you're the common denominator.
Yes. But she's like, all these bad things, and this guy was like, yeah, she hasn't done anything wrong, but all these cops are always after her. And I'm like, she's doing something. Mm-hmm. You can't just constantly be at the wrong place at the wrong time all the time.
No, but that's the thing, that drug makes them believe their lies because it
gives them the excuse to kind of continue to live that life.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to do it.
Yeah.
If you were to wake up one day and have a real self-reflection about it, you would stop using the drug. But the drug is like more powerful than even that. Like it really is. I mean, you look at the addiction problem. I mean, it is so dramatic, and it's because that drug is so stinking powerful, and it it makes these people feel whole. I mean, that was the opium dens of 1,000 years ago. Like, there is that drug, for whatever reason, there's certain people that it is like the most important thing in their life. And it's so crazy.
But if you're that addicted to stuff, like we've been addicted to chewing tobacco, right?
Sure.
It's like, you don't think about it, but when you're chewing tobacco on a regular basis, it's like, you are always thinking about it. Technically, It's like, okay, when I go into watch a movie, gotta have a chew in. When I drive my car to this place, I gotta. So it's the same type of addiction.
Your brain will get mad at you if you're not gonna feed that addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your brain will tell you, and it could be something as simple as tobacco. Your nicotine, your brain, if it's not getting it, it will find an excuse to make you give it to it. It'll tell you like, you're going to do this. Well, you're going to need this. You're going to need nicotine if you're going to do this.
While you're doing this. Yeah.
Well, you can't do it without that. And then if you tell it you're going to quit, it'll start to be like, find excuses why you can't quit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. That's a microcosm of heroin. So we've experienced that because we've used nicotine. You've experienced that addictive. It's the same thing. It's just on another level when you're talking about opioids.
Except one is extremely deadly. I mean, they're
right.
Like nicotine,'s not going to kill you.
No.
Heroin.
The delivery systems might over time, but heroin can kill you in one use. I mean, if you're talking about fentanyl being in these things, I mean, people die from nonsense. I listened to Dr. Phil talk about that the other day. Apparently you can buy drugs off of Snapchat, and this little college girl bought an Adderall, which she thought was an Adderall, took a quarter of it, and died of a fentanyl overdose. And it's like, but that happens. That's what's frightening now, is that fentanyl is made into everything. Everything.
Yeah, I know people who have bought like mushroom chocolate bars on Snapchat, Instagram, and you would think, okay, I'm just getting these mushrooms, right, that are in these chocolate bars, but there could be other stuff in there, or there might not even be mushrooms in the thing. And here's the thing: what are you gonna do? Rat out the drug dealer? Well, A, you paid him in cryptocurrency, and B, what are you gonna say? Oh, I found this guy, and they're gonna be like, okay, well, we're gonna arrest you because we can't find this guy.
What's crazy is, so then that's actually a good question. So you buy drugs off of Snapchat. I don't know how Snapchat works, but you buy drugs off of Snapchat. Do they ship them to you?
I mean, I know how it happens, actually.
Let's hear it. This is interesting.
Because I asked.
There's like an honor system.
I asked this person, how it went down, and he never got burned. But you basically pay in cryptocurrency, and they'll ship it to you. And I was like, well, what address are they shipping it from? and he was like, it was like 365 Elf Drive, and it was like a made up address, but he was like, it was super well packaged, like bubble wrapped and all kinds of other stuff. But yeah, it is the honor system. Like, are these people actually going to send it to me? Now, if you're dealing with someone that another person has dealt with, then there might be a little bit more, okay, I trust this person because
This is
my
a
buddy got it.
reputable Snapchat.
Right.
drug
It's like, how reputable though. But
There's no like seller reviews and like kind of build up your credibility.
I don't think.
I've shipped drugs 100 times successfully.
I feel like you should have that.
I mean, that's like when eBay and all that stuff took off. Like I remember, like when we were in like high school, I think it was just like, what the am I really gonna get this? Like at the time, I think the first thing I ever bought online was like an amp because it was cool, like put subwoofers and stuff in your car. I'm like every $50 was like huge, and I was like, I'm about to spend $50. Like, what are the chances I actually get this and that's the real thing?
Mm-hmm.
And then like I got educated on the review system. Like, oh, this person sent 400 things, and people around the country say like, yeah, he's legit.
Yeah, I think most people are good.
But Snapchat drug selling.
I mean, any kind of I don't know if you trust any kind of drug dealer.
Yeah, they're not probably who you put your trust in.
Yeah. I mean,
so what were you buying? Mushroom chocolate bars?
I wasn't
too?
buying. It was a guy that I know. He was buying mushroom chocolate bars. It was
It's always the guy.
$80 for 3.5 grams. Is what he was paying, because there were like these. I think I have a picture.
$80?
Yeah, $80. I have a picture because I was like, send me because the packaging actually was not that bad either. It looked like a package that you're a store bought chocolate bar packaging. So it was. These people are going the extra mile.
I think in certain places right now, like I think Washington D.C., you can legally buy that.
So maybe it was coming
Maybe it was sent from there.
Yeah, possibly
From Elf Drive.
But I did join a Telegram group one time, and it was all about selling mushrooms and weed pens and things like that. So this guy would post pictures. I never bought it because I was too sketched out about it, but he would post pictures like, hey, we just got a resupply of X amount of vape pens, like marijuana vape pens, and here's some mushrooms. And so people are buying this stuff. And there were hundreds of people in these Telegram groups.
That makes like a real argument just to legalize this stuff. Like when you can go on Snapchat and just somebody's going to ship it to you.
Yeah.
Like
at least it's, and this is my argument for it, is it's like at least it's a little bit more safe. Yeah, you're going to have those few one-off cases where people are going to get laced up stuff.
Yeah, but if you don't want to purchase that, it would be nice to have an option. Say you're going to do it and you wanted to have it where it was going to be, lab tested and such, where you know what the heck you're getting. There's a real argument for that. I mean, you'd have a lot less deaths for sure. You wouldn't have fentanyl and everything.
Or let people grow that kind of stuff at home, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's marijuana or mushrooms. The other stuff, I don't even know how you would do that. You need to know some chemistry to make all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. These people, these mole people, it's all based around drugs, and
unfortunately.
Going back to the mole people and just drugs in general, like how it kind of opens your mind to like how vulnerable we are. Like at what point, like let's say something catastrophic happened to you and you lost your family, whatever it was, and like you had this experience and you ended up down that path, and then like a lot of these people would share like, oh, like the flash flood came and I lost my ID and lost everything, and I tried to go up to the BMV and like they said I needed this and I needed that, and it was like at that point it's like too hard for them to like figure out their how do I get my social security card. So it's like whatever, I'm just gonna live down here because I figured it out. But it's like when do you think that you would give up? It's like if you spent a month down there, had nothing, it was like, okay, I got to go back out to society and kind of try to rejoin. Because some of these people, I was just like, damn, they had it together. Like they had a job, they had a career, whatever it was. They made $75,000 a year, they had a family, and then all of a sudden it's just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to live in these tunnels.
I mean, you just become numb to it, right? It becomes your new life.
It must be the drugs. Like it brings you down a level, and it's like, okay, but then it's like, oh, that world. I'm done with it.
It depends on what your aimer's pointed at. It's like they used to have their aimer pointed at what was considered to be success in our society, which was family and this and that and money and all that, and they decided their aimer was probably more appropriately pointed at drugs. So it's like, at any point in time, it's not like, I'm sure there are resources for them to like get back on their feet. There's homeless resources everywhere. Like if they went in and said, "Hey, I want to get XYZ. I need to get my driver's license, this, that." Like it's not an impossible task. We're not like asking.
Yeah,
to
at
build
the
a
end of the day,
building.
most of them have made the decision that they're just fine
Yeah,
living in the
I
fucking
think.
tunnels.
Yeah,
Because the only guy who goes like, all right, right now, any ticket you want, I'm gonna help you. Like, we'll get you a job set up. I'll buy you a plane ticket to anywhere in the country.
they probably have places for them
And
to
they're like,
live. They
yeah,
probably
they're
have
like,
like a
"Man."
halfway house kind of situation. That's the thing. There are a lot of resources for this stuff, and like California, they keep pumping money into these programs, and it's like that's all fine and well, but it's going to take participation from the mole person or the homeless person. Like they're going to have to participate. You can give them all the resources in the world, but when their main concern is where they get their next fix, it doesn't really matter what you give them. You're not going to solve that problem. And then you have to ask, like, well, is it a problem for us? Like, what do we do about it?
I mean, most humans are going to take the least path of resistance. Of
course.
Let's be honest. I mean, you can look around America and see all the extremely fat people. Well, they know not to eat all that food that makes them fat.
It's not a secret.
It's the exact same idea, right? And,
Right.
and that's why I think it's important to do difficult shit as often as you can. It's more important to do those things that you don't want to do, because those are actually the things that you should be doing.
Yeah.
Because I could just, when you guys leave here, I could just go buy a 5-pound bag of gummy bears and just sit there and crush them all. It feels so comfortable, right? But it's more difficult to go out there and instead of doing that, go work out.
Yeah.
Even though afterwards you feel like you're on a high after you work out. But humans just naturally take the least path of resistance. And then trying to reintegrate into society for these individuals is extremely difficult, because you're so used to that underworld that it's a culture shock to have to come out of there and have to go to work 9 to 5 every day, right?
yeah.
Go through that normal routine that humans do or should be.
Yeah, you make our lives sound miserable. They got it figured out, I think.
I mean, to
an
minus-
extent.
Damn, it's
minus
9 to
the-
5 and going to work and
Yeah.
out and eating this healthy food that I really don't like.
Minus
I
the-
can just get high. and
minus
just
the
kick
drug
it.
part. I mean, yeah, their existence isn't going to be.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, remove the drugs for 2 days, and then I think you'll see the dark, evil underbelly. You know, like that's when you really would see, like, oh my God, this is so depressing. Like if they don't have their drugs, like all of a sudden they don't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then reality comes in, and it's like, I'm living in a tunnel. Like, it's bad.
When you think about it, like the Viking day, like what did we do when we were first evolving? We just found a cave and hung out there and gathered resources.
Yeah, but we also like were out, gathering resources and raising kids and like doing things
They
that
find
have
mattresses,
a reward
they find
pattern.
food. I don't know. I think
Their
the tunnel
reward
people-
pattern, in your brain, you have serotonin, dopamine. You have these things that give you rewards for doing things that, can help your life.
Just think how excited
skip-
that guy is when somebody leaves $5 in that slot machine.
Yeah, I get it. But like you know what I'm saying? Like your brain developed these reward systems that, hey, I built something. I get a dopamine hit. I fed my family. I got a dopamine hit. Like they hijacked that system. We as a society have essentially hijacked that system, where now instead of rewarding things that are traditionally, in a traditional culture would be found to be productive, we do it now with drugs and social media and things that really have zero residual value to the person, but it does almost hijack your brain to tell you, yeah, this is good. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, this is good. It's not good. In a long-term sense, it won't play out well for the individual and society. So it's like you almost have to, like back
It's
in the
different
day.
versions though. Like you get pretty like stoked, like if you remodel like your bathroom,
Sure,
or something,
something
right?
like that,
It's
right.
Like, oh man, I did a great job here. Well, I think they get the same thing when they
They
find
do.
some crates and find a new mattress and they take
Yeah,
it down
right.
to their tunnel. Like
Right.
it's like, yeah, that was a good day's work.
But
I'm
yeah.
proud of myself. Let's go get out.
Yeah, no, that I don't think that's what I'm saying. That ingenuity, I don't think is a negative. It's the fact that you're addicted to drugs and living in a tunnel and crapping in the corner. Like that's where it starts to, the veil gets a little thin.
They might say like, F you, I go up to Caesar's Palace and drop a nice deuce. And I head back down to my tunnel later. I just walk by a slot machine, gather 20
Maybe they
bucks.
do. Maybe they do.
Thanks for checking out this podcast. Please make sure to hit that thumbs up button before you go. If you want to watch us continue the conversation, then click on this video to your left next.